Hello and welcome. Here's your news update for February 3rd, 2026.
All right, let's jump right into our top story. The United States and India have just announced what's being called a landmark trade agreement. This is a big deal, and it's really aimed at easing some recent tensions and forging stronger economic links between the two countries.
So what's at the heart of this deal? Well, it all came together after a direct call between U.S. President Donald Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The key takeaway is a major cut in U.S. tariffs. You might remember the previous reciprocal tariff went as high as 50% during the dispute. Now that's being brought all the way down to a flat 18%.
And it didn't take long for confirmation to come through. Prime Minister Modi took to social media almost immediately, welcoming the agreement. In a statement, he really emphasized the benefits for made-in-India products and, framed the whole thing as a huge win for the relationship between the two nations.
Now, what about India's side of the bargain? According to President Trump, India has committed to a massive purchase. We're talking over $500 billion worth of American goods. This covers everything from energy and tech to agriculture. And interestingly, the deal also reportedly includes a pretty strategic commitment from India to stop buying Russian oil.
Okay, let's shift our focus now to North America. There's another trade dispute brewing, this time between the United States and Canada, and it's all centered on the super competitive aerospace industry.
The U.S. administration has laid down a pretty serious threat here. They're talking about a potential 50% tariff on all Canadian-made aircraft sold in the U.S. And on top of that, they're threatening to decertify Bombardier jets. That's a move that would literally ground those planes inside U.S. airspace.
So, why the tough stance? The U.S. is claiming this is direct retaliation because, they allege, Canada has been refusing to certify Gulfstream's G500 to G800 series jets. And the potential fallout here could be huge. We're not just talking about Bombardier's business jets, this could also hit the CRJ regional jets that a lot of U.S. airlines use and even some critical communications aircraft that the U.S. Air Force relies on.
Now let's head over to the United Kingdom, where a big political story is breaking. A very high-profile politician has just resigned from the Labour Party, and it's all connected to his ties with the late Jeffrey Epstein.
The politician in question is Peter Mandelson. You'll know him as a veteran political figure, a key architect of that new Labour era. He has officially resigned his party membership, and this decision comes right on the heels of newly released documents that shed more light on his relationship with the convicted sex offender.
So, what's in these new files? Well, they apparently contain bank statements that seem to show 3 separate payments of $25,000 each going to accounts linked to Mandelson. There's also mention of a £10,000 payment to his partner. For his part, Mandelson says he has absolutely no record or memory of these payments and that he believes the allegations are false.
In his resignation letter, Mandelson wrote that he was stepping aside to avoid causing, in his words, further embarrassment to the party. It's worth remembering that this isn't the first time this has been an issue. Prime Minister Keir Starmer had actually fired Mandelson from his job as ambassador to the U.S. over his continued association with Epstein, even after Epstein's first conviction.
All right, turning to the Middle East now, we have a really significant development on the Gaza-Egypt border. A critical lifeline for the people there has reopened, but it's on a very, very limited basis. We're talking about the Rafah border crossing. For most people in Gaza, this is their only direct way out to the rest of the world, and it's been pretty much shut down since May of 2024. Officials are calling this reopening a pilot operation, which means movement is still going to be extremely restricted. So on the very first day of this pilot program, how many people got out? Just 5. Only 5 patients were allowed to cross to get medical treatment abroad. But to put that number into perspective, that tiny number of 5, it stands in really stark contrast to the sheer need on the ground. Health officials in Gaza say there are an estimated 22,000 patients right now waiting to leave for essential medical care. It just goes to show the scale of the humanitarian crisis that's still unfolding. All right, and before we go, let's take a quick look at some other major stories happening around the globe. Over in Asia, China has executed 4 more people who were convicted of leading huge scam and gambling rings based out of Myanmar. This really marks a major step up in Beijing's crackdown on these cross-border fraud networks that are operating near its territory. Also in India, the government just presented its new budget. The big focus this time, boosting domestic manufacturing and infrastructure. They're planning to increase capital spending to 12.2 lakh crore rupees. That's a huge jump. And the whole idea is to really kickstart long-term economic growth. Meanwhile, in Singapore, the first ever Space Summit 2026 is happening right now. It's bringing together all the big names from the global space industry. We're already hearing some key announcements about new satellite programs, which signals a really big push to grow the space sector in the Asia-Pacific region.
And finally, a story out of Nigeria. Authorities there have now charged 9 people in connection with last year's massacre in Yelwada, where 150 people were killed. This move is really the first major step we've seen towards prosecution in that case.
And that's the latest for now. We'll have another update for you in 24 hours.
If you want to stay informed, please be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.